I think I messages are relevant to yourself. I know that a lot of psychologists teach that. It's I'm just one person with one opinion. From my perspective, it's completely wrong. Um, it does avoid certain problems. If you want to avoid being accusatory, you did this, you did that, you were there. If you don't want to be accusatory, the psychologist can suggest use I and not you. But that's just passive aggressive. Yeah, you have just changed aggressive into passive aggressive because you are still communicating the same message, but in a way that does not allow the other person to respond. I think it's more important to listen than talk. You don't learn anything when you talk. You learn when you listen. Well, an honest question about the feelings or opinions of another person is one of the most beautiful things that exists in the world. It's one of the most beautiful things a person can do. Um, because it's showing that you respect the other person's opinion. It's showing that you can listen, and it's showing that you want to know, which means you want to grow, you want to be better. It's extremely
Mhm.
respectful. And this idea of change you into I, they're both bad. They're both bad because you is aggressive and I is passive aggressive, and you don't want to be aggressive. The whole point is to avoid being, because you is just accusatory, and the I is, it doesn't give the other person an opportunity to respond to anything. And we have to realize in a situation of conflict, there's two I's. And how are you gonna resolve anything if there's two different I's and there's not a we? It doesn't it doesn't make any sense to me. I mean, you will have you will have visibly less conflict if you change you to I, but the conflict will go underground.
Mhm.
Things will remain unsaid. What's wrong with the I and the we together? Let's sit down. Let's discuss this. Let's find a solution together. Let's listen to each other. What's this I and you stuff is self-destructive. What about we? What about
Mhm.
us?
Mhm.
This, well, I have my needs too. Tell me something I don't know. We have to be careful that we're not projecting. The projection is the number one problem in communication. From my experience, this is when we think that we know and we understand what the other person is thinking. When you ask a question, it's really hard to not frame it with your own opinion because when you say to someone, well, in this situation you would do that, you're actually telling them what you think that they would do. So that's the ideas of your mind. And anytime you frame a conversation with your opinion, it's not fair.
Mhm.
Now, people do this all the time. A classic example is to say, I really feel this, blah, blah, blah. What do you think? That is that is number one manipulation technique. Number one manipulation technique in human interaction. I think this. I saw this on the news and it made me think blah 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 blah. What do you think? You've already framed the conversation with the ideas that you want other people to have.
Mhm.
That is extremely manipulative
Mhm.
and extremely common
Mhm.
because if you watch, say, interviewers on television, that's how they frame their questions. They are leading the interviewee to present a certain type of answer. And everything on television is scripted, okay? Everything is scripted. So, so this leading other people by presenting your opinion at the beginning of the conversation is extremely disrespectful. And if you want to understand other people and you want a real conversation, it must be avoided. Ask people what they think. Okay, so and here's remember I said that you give other people basically ammunition to kill you when you present your own opinion.
Mhm.
I in general debates or conversations, I never ever present my own opinion. Ever. Because then when the person says, but but you think blah 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 blah, they instantly lose. Because I say, but I didn't tell you what I think. I never presented my opinion. I'm intelligent enough to realize there are many opinions, and I'm intelligent enough to view this topic from several different perspectives, and I'm intelligent enough to argue the arguments for each perspective.
Mhm.
I have not told you what I think, because what I think is not really very important in this conversation, in this intellectual conversation. There is no
Mhm.
I from my perspective. Now, it's different when I work with clients because the aim is to go forward. The aim is to progress. The aim is to uh, present scenarios, to create stimulation, ideas, and this requires a lot of the I. If I was standing in front of a group of students, I would tell them some stories from my life, stories that mean something to me, in the hope that they mean something to them. Because without a story, there's nothing. People don't. People only remember stories. They don't remember anything else. They don't. If there's no story, there's no nothing can be taught without a story. All great speakers have stories.